Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on CNN with Chris Cuomo on Wednesday night, and Cuomo asked Ocasio-Cortez how we can pay for some of the ideas that Ocasio-Cortez has championed, like single payer and free tuition at public colleges and universities.
Man, do you want to spend a lot of my tax money on these proposals that you and Bernie and others have? Medicare for all, college tuition, maybe even housing, that the Green New Deal that you have, it is all very expensive, especially on the single payer side, and that it gives people sticker shock, even in Bernie's home state. They got sticker shock. They couldn't get it done in his state because of how expensive it is. And that was an 11% increase in taxes, 9 to 11%. Even that was too much for people. How do you pay? How do you sell it?
So first of all, the thing that we need to realize is people talk about the sticker shock of Medicare for all. They do not talk about the sticker shock of the cost of our existing system. You know, in a Koch brothers funded study, if any study is going to try to be a little bit slanted, it would be one funded by the Koch brothers. It shows that Medicare for all is actually much cheaper than the current system that we pay right now. And let's not forget that the reason that the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act is because they ruled that each of these monthly payments that everyday Americans make is a tax. And so while it may not seem like we pay that tax on April 15th, we pay it every single month, or we do pay a tax season if we don't buy, these plans off of the exchange. So we're paying for this system. We Americans have the sticker shock of healthcare as it is. And what we're also not talking about is why aren't we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to healthcare? That is part of the cost of our system. Why don't we talk about the cost of reduced productivity because of people who need to go on disability, because of people who are not able to participate in our economy, because they're having issues like diabetes or they don't have access to the health care that they need. I think at the end of the day, we see that this is not a pipe dream. Every other developed nation in the world does this. Why can't America? And that is the question that we need to ask. We have done these things before. We write unlimited blank checks for war. We just wrote a $2 trillion check for that tax cut, the GOP tax cut, and nobody asked those folks how are they going to pay for it. So my question is, why is it that our pockets are only empty when it comes to education and health care for our kids? Why are our pockets only empty when we talk about 100% renewable energy that is going to save this planet and allow our children to thrive? We only have empty pockets when it comes to the morally right things to do. But when it comes to tax cuts for billionaires and when it comes to unlimited war, we seem to be able to invent that money very easily. And to me, it belies a lack of moral priorities that people have right now, especially the Republican Party.
All she needed to do, well, she could have done two things. Drop that mic and add in a bitch.
Yo, for real. Because, see, it was very slight. But there were two instances where she gave, I want to cut this motherfucker's face. It was very slight, and it was very quick. But again, she has groomed herself, so that part won't come out as much.
Yeah. Oh, she's very articulate.
She's very, so again,
she doesn't need to do that.
She doesn't need to do that. But there was a couple of, I'm going to cut this faces she made. But she went right into her talking points. And it looked as if Cuomo couldn't even jump. And he was just like,
no, he couldn't.
He like,
a few times you saw it, but he couldn't get it out.
So if we're going to talk about someone patronizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Trevor Noah's not the one to talk about.
No. That was a few weeks ago on The Daily Show, and people did have things to say about his questions of Ocasio-Cortez, but we thought, hey, it was pretty fair. It was a pretty fair interview, pretty fair questions, because all it did was gave her the platform, the opportunity to explain her positions and, you know, how they were going to be paid for. That's what we want. It was on a national scale. That's exactly what we want. But what we saw from Chris Cuomo was a condescending attitude.
Yeah, because he was like, you're going to, you know, our tax dollars.
Mm-hmm. You want to spend so much of our tax money.
Tax dollars. I was like, I was like, pump the brakes, bro. Pump the brakes. Like, I don't think this was a case where he was allowing, I guess, certain sentiments and apprehensions about her platform to kind of, I guess, speak through him. I think he inserted himself once he said so much of my tax dollars. Like, it just seemed like there was more of him in the question. Like, I have no problem with an interviewer asking a question and I guess acting as a vessel, you know what I'm saying, for the viewers, because that interview was more about, you know, the viewers than him. So I understand that. But like, it felt like he inserted himself into that, because throughout the interview, because that's just a short little snippet, he was like saying things, you want everything for free, you want everything for free. He kept just saying these particular talking points, and Ocasio-Cortez had actual talking points based in facts to kind of back like her platform and her agenda up. And it left Cuomo just like kind of like starry-eyed.
Dumbfounded.
Anytime
that you see somebody attack Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with the language like, oh, you want things for free, then you know they're trying to hit them. You know they're trying to be condescending, because they're not advocating for anything that's actually free. Like, this stuff will be paid for, and most people, all people, will be paying into these programs. So they're not for free. It's just that with single payer, will I have to go to the doctor, and will I have a copay that I will need to present to the receptionist or whoever's right there? No, because it will be paid for beforehand.
And so now, see, again, okay, now that gets into the use of the term sticker shock.
Oh, yes.
He tried to like throw at her.
Yes.
And she pretty much laid it out plain. I was like, well, what do you think the sticker shock is right now?
But he doesn't want to address that. We spend so much money, trillions of dollars, on healthcare in this country, and it's only expected to rise. A study that we saw from the CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, by I think 2025, it's expected to rise to I think about like $5.5 trillion. And single payer, per this Mercatus, what is it, Meritus? Mercatus? No, it's Mercatus. From that study, seems like a single payer program like that would actually save us money. So why isn't the sticker shock of what we are actually paying and have been paying for years and years and years, and it has been rising for years and years and years, how come that doesn't set people like off? How come we like, we're not like, oh my gosh, we're spending so much money, we got to do something? No.
Okay, that's the
we want to save money, and no, we can't do that.
That's the first stage of the sticker shock she kind of highlighted. Now, what was the second stage of the kind of the sticker shock argument she had to mutilate? That was what?
Yeah.
Tax cuts.
Oh yeah.
And that was war.
Yep. We find all the money in the world for a program that was over 6 months ago now.
Yeah.
Late last year, when we had that massive tax cut for the wealthiest of us and for corporations. We found the money for that, even though the analysis of it is going to severely hamper our debt, but nobody cares about that, right? It's going to be a boom for the economy.
You know what I like that she did? She did not, I guess, scope this agenda and her arguments around like politics per se. It wasn't really politics, because she made a moral argument. She said moral something. I can't remember her exact words, but she used the word like moral, which points to the fact that it is, I guess, morally repugnant.
Yes.
That we can spend money on war and tax cuts for wealthy people, but then all of a sudden, when it comes to helping poor and middle class people, which would only be a drop in the bucket compared to how much money we divert in those areas, it's all of a sudden hands off.
Yeah, we don't have the moral courage to do stuff like that. And see, you really have to tie those two together: the moral courage and the fact that the things that she wants to happen, like single payer, would actually save us money. So she actually wants to put a program in place that will address morality, that will be in the best interest of humans living in this country, and it will actually save us money too. So why the hell can't we get people behind it? Like, I have no problem with Chris Cuomo addressing these issues and asking, just like Trevor Noah did, like, okay, there are people, there's a lot of noise, I'm sure you've heard it, people saying, this is going to cost a lot of money, how are you going to pay for it? Lay it out for her, let her take it home, slam dunk, reverse. I mean, let her do what she does, right? But that's not all he did. He asked it in a condescending way, like, you're going to spend so much of my money, all this stuff is going to be free, how are you going to sell something like that? You might as well did like this. How can you do that? You're crazy.